ID Alliance presents this week's short attention span sales tip. Good morning, everybody. It's Bill Farquharson. How are you on this beautiful Monday? I want to talk to you about a variety of things this morning. This tip might be on motivation, or might be on education, or knowledge, or creativity. You can go a lot of ways. We can put Google AdWords on a number of different things here, but really this is about strengthening yourself in sales indirectly. How's that? I do an awful lot of reading, and most of the stuff that I take in, I do on my iPhone. I've got an Amazon Audible account, which gets me out walking, and I have a very eclectic mix of books that I listen to. Each one has a different purpose, and there's lots that I read or listen to again and again and again. Some of them I have in hard copy, some I have on my iPad, and I will take in. And I want to run over as many as I can with you today, because coming up on summer reading, I want to give you some homework, but I also want to impress upon you the need to continue to gain some education, and not necessarily in the industry. You can learn about print, and that's great, but learning about creativity through a book like The 5 Elements of Effective Thinking, learning about becoming a good listener and a conversationalist with a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People, learning about how to communicate with someone through an obscure book called The 5 Love Languages, or learning about prospecting in another obscure way with The 4 Agreements. I've also got a management book called Integrity by Henry Cloud. Strengths Finder by Tom Rath, who also wrote Well-Being. And then finally, Tony Robbins' book, Reawaken the Giant Within. In a deeper dive, I will go back through all these, but my point for now is to make certain, these are books that you ought to be reading on a regular basis, I think. So starting with number 1 then, the best book on sales ever written has nothing to do with sales. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Okay, if you've read it, raise your hand. That's what I say to people in live seminars. And then I say, okay, so if you've read it multiple times, keep your hand up. And those names that are up are usually the top salespeople in the room, bar none. This is a book that you refer to again and again. And it's a very simple premise. It says you can get what you want when you figure out what the other guy wants and help him to get it. That's sales. And that's where I started. I read that book at age 14 when my mom handed it to me, and it's made a huge, huge difference in my life. The next book that I recommend, The 5 Elements of Effective Thinking. This is one of my go-tos. I had this on speaker this morning. This is a book by Starbird and Berger, the two authors, and they're professors, and they created this book, and it's really about creativity. It's about problem solving, and I don't think you can teach creativity, but I think you can teach creative thinking. And very often in sales, we have to come up with a better idea. If somebody hands you a document and says, here, quote this, you've got the specs in front of you. Very few of us think to learn the story behind the piece. And that takes asking good, qualifying, open-ended questions. This book teaches you how to do that. This book teaches you how to attack a problem through some very interesting angles, and I highly recommend that is not just read once, but that is on your regular list. The next one, The 5 Love Languages. Don Chapman wrote this, and there's a series of them. Get the original. This book is about relationships, but it says we all receive love in one of 5 ways. I'm going to screw this up. Physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and quality time. Hey, I got them all. And so we all feel loved. And how is that relevant? I think the point is that we communicate in different styles. So you might be communicating with a customer or a boss or an associate on one level, but if they're at a different level, then you're both going to be missing each other. Very often I have coaching calls with people that say, I can't believe that guy that I'm working with, he's such a pain in the neck. And yet he's saying the same thing. They're coming at each other from different angles. And if I can get them up to the same level, okay, now I get it. All right, so another one is The 4 Agreements. I love The 4 Agreements. If you have not read that book, stop what you're doing and read that book. Even more than How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is a life changer. And the 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't make any assumptions, take nothing personally, and always do your best. That's a go-to. I read that 6 times a year. It's a very quick read. It's on my iPad. It's usually, when they tell you to put your laptop away in the plane, that's what comes out. Integrity is a book by Henry Cloud. A terrific book given to me by a couple friends from the Upper East Side of New York. My friend Keith, who's my golf buddy, he pastors a church, and they've met Dr. Cloud. Very interesting read. It's a good management book. It talks about a lot of employee stories in there. Again, it's a little bit of a different shift on things. Strengths Finder and Well-Being are 2 books by Tom Rath of the Gallup poll people. And they write about finding your strengths. And Well-Being is a book that they measure happiness based on their research that they've done all over the world. And then you go online and you take a test that then adds to their data for moving forward. Reawaken the Giant Within is a Tony Robbins. And I remember Tony Robbins back when I thought he was a quack. Back when my daughter, Katie, who's going to be 27 on the 26th of April, when Katie was a baby, I used to get up in the middle of the night to feed her when it was my turn. And there were 2 things on at night, CNN and Tony Robbins. And I just couldn't imagine anybody connecting with this guy. And I thought, oh my God, this guy's a charlatan. He's P.T. Barnum, And then 25 years later, I read his book and I was like, oh, wow, okay. He really has a lot to say. You can download his free book, which he's rewritten. It's called Reawaken the Giant Within. And it's just outstanding. It's a wonderful. Got some exercises in there, and I really, I think he's really full of himself, and to a large degree. But he's got something to say. By the way, not on my list, but The 4-Hour Work Week is another good book to read. There was one that they were promoting on the CBS Morning Show this past Monday morning, written by a Harvard professor. It's called Wait, What? And it sounds like another one of those creative thinking books. I will pick it up and I will get back to you on this, but that might be another one. There's a list of 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 9 or 10 books that you can sink your teeth into. These are all on my, not just read them once and put them down novels, but these are books that they'll hit you differently every single time. And you have to focus on the fundamentals and the basics every single time in order to be successful at what you do over a long period of time. So there's my very fast-paced, short attention span sales tip. I hope you have a great selling week, and I'll talk to you all next week.